Hello, my name is Aubrey Stoner, and today I will be discussing the topic. Of growth hormones and antibiotic use in food production. I feel as though many people are unaware of the use of these hormones and antibiotics in the foods that we eat every day, such as different types of dairy products, meat, and as well as honey. This slide goes over my outline of my presentation. So to begin, first, I will be going over the background of my presentation, and this discusses why growth hormones and antibiotics are used in food production, the common hormones that are used, why people are concerned, and some other background about milk and agricultural practices. Second, I will be going over some other viewpoints, such as the pros and cons of using antibiotics in food production and the pros and cons of using hormones in food production. Third, I will be going over sociocultural, economic, and political factors of this issue, which include consumer concerns, sociocultural attitudes, cost of production, and market demand. Fourth, I will be going over some ethical considerations, such as what is being done individually about this issue and what government and local organizations are doing. And fifth, I will be discussing my concluding statements about what I found was most important about this presentation. First, I will be going over the background. Why are growth hormones and antibiotics used in food production? Antibiotics are used in food production to help control and prevent diseases in animals, such as E. coli, anthrax, salmonella, campylobacter, and other types of diseases. Growth hormones are also used in food production in order to help the animals gain weight faster, and this helps companies to produce lean meat at a low cost and to reduce food waste in order to ensure that the livestock products that they sell are readily available. This slide discusses the common hormones that are used in food production. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, approved 6 different hormones for use. These include estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, zeranol, trenbolone acetate, malongestrel acetate, and the naturally occurring hormones are estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone, while zeranol, trenbolone acetate, and malongestrel acetate are actually man-made synthetic hormones. And although estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone are naturally occurring, they still have just as bad effects as the man-made synthetic hormones. Prostaglandins have been reported in dairy products and are linked to mastitis in cows. And mastitis is an inflammation of breast tissue, and this can sometimes lead to an infection. And prostaglandins are also bad for humans, as excessive levels of these prostaglandins can cause chronic pain, painful menstruation, etc. Why are people concerned? The increased use of these veterinary drugs have raised concern about the safety of livestock products and the antimicrobial resistance that could be prevalent after consuming these products. This can lead to ineffectiveness of antibiotic therapy for the treatment of human diseases. Another human concern is the disruption of the normal human intestinal flora. The development of gastrointestinal disorders and allergies in humans have been caused by antibiotic residues in food products. This slide discusses the study that was done on milk in order to test for possible pesticides and antibiotics within the sample. 2 different milk types were tested, conventional milk and organic milk. On the right discusses the comparisons between the two. Organic milk is sterilized at about 280 degrees Fahrenheit, while regular milk is pasteurized at 165 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Organic milk has a longer shelf life, up to 2 months, while regular milk doesn't have as long of a shelf life. It is not as sweet and less expensive. Regular milk retains most natural nutrients, and cows are treated with growth hormones and antibiotics, while in organic milk, the cows are in an open pasture, they're drug-free, and it's friendly to the environment, and organic milk also has higher omega-3 fatty acid content. Pesticides and antibiotics were detected in several of the conventional samples, but were not detected in the organic samples. 5 out of 15 were detected of the pesticide group, and 5 out of 13 were detected in the antibiotic group. Higher BGH, which is bovine growth hormone, and insulin-like growth factor, which is IGF-1, there were higher levels of these two hormone growth factors levels in conventional milk, and this shows the presence of synthetic growth hormones, of course. IGF-1's anabolic signals have been linked to tumor development, and high levels of IGF-1 have been linked to different types of cancer, such as colon, breast, pancreas, endometrium, and prostate. The milk demand trends suggest that concern about exposure to pesticides is actually playing a role in the decline of the intake of conventional milk. So the more people that know about the differences between organic and regular milk, it has shown that organic milk is being bought more regularly. So both my brother and my mom are allergic to penicillin, so that is why we have always bought organic milk. So that is something to definitely look at further when buying milk. This slide discusses agricultural practices and their role in food production. As we know, pesticides are spread onto crops in agriculture used for food. This is done in order to control weeds and to control insect diseases and infestation. Pesticides residues have been found in grain used to feed animals, and they also carry many health risks for consumers. Exposure to pesticides has been actually correlated with a higher risk of cancer, delayed motor and neurological development, and lower birth weights. Wastewater used for irrigation contains pharmaceutical residues such as antibiotics, and it has been found that around 33,000 people actually die each year because of antibiotic-resistant infections. Honey has been found to have antibiotic residues that result from improper beekeeping practices and the environment. The 2 types of residues that have been found to be above the regulatory standards in honey are oxytetracycline and chloramphenicol. Next, I will be discussing other viewpoints of this topic. This slide discusses the pros and cons of the use of antibiotics in food production. The pros would be that some believe that antibiotic use in food production in the animals is not concerning for human health, and they argue that low doses of antibiotics can actually reduce animal death rates by preventing and stopping the bacterial growth that make animals sick in the first place. They also produce growth in animals, allowing for a greater quantity and lower cost of livestock products, as industries are able to produce more meat with less feed input, which is better for their money and for ours. But the cons of this would be that the animals or the antibiotics that are consumed by these animals can actually cause antibiotic resistance in humans who consume these animal products and can cause serious illness. It can also lead to illnesses and allergies and gastrointestinal disorders. Here are the pros and cons of the use of hormones in food production. The pros would be that these hormones found in meat and dairy products have not been directly linked to health conditions such as early puberty or cancer. But on the other hand, for the cons, the effects of these hormones may present themselves in the long run, as they can have slight effects on the human body, and although the hormones are naturally occurring, they do have biological effects on both humans and animals. When we consume animal products containing synthetic hormones, it is argued that we also consume these synthetic hormones that can have biological effects on us. They can increase the risk of various cancers and can cause health conditions to occur later in life. Going on, I will be discussing sociocultural, economic, and political factors. Moving on to sociocultural, economic, and political factors, some of these would be consumer concerns, cultural attitudes, cost of production, and market demand, which I will be discussing later in my presentation. Starting with consumer concerns, I found a study that talked about how consumers are concerned about the different types of livestock products that we buy at grocery stores today. And there was a study done to show who was concerned, who was not concerned, and who had a mixed concern. So as we can see, 65.3% of consumers were concerned with the antibiotic use in food production, 8.1% were not concerned, and 11.3% had mixed concern. The next slide, I will be discussing the figure on the right. So this is the figure closer up. It shows a tally of studies by food studied, methodology studied, and level of concern about antibiotics that the study found. And as you can see by the filled in dots, which shows that the study found concerned, most people had a concern about these products. Consumers tended to demonstrate concern regardless of the product type, and beef was the only exception, a product in which consumer concern was slightly more mixed. Going on to sociocultural attitudes, it has been found that generally women, individuals of older age, and those with higher levels of education and income tended to exhibit greater consumer concern. One study indicated heightened concern among men regarding antibiotic usage, and this contrasted with several others which observed greater concern among female participants, so I found that interesting. Additionally, personal factors such as dietary and shopping preferences, trust levels, occupation, political and ethical beliefs, religious affiliation, racial background, awareness of the issue, geographical location, and family dynamics were also considered in this study. However, findings across these categories were sparse, and they lacked consistency among studies. So many of these studies have differing results, but this is just one study's result. Cost of production is something that many of these companies look at as a deciding factor of whether they should remove these growth hormone antibiotics. A report on antibiotic use in agriculture by the National Research Council concluded that a 1.76% increase in poultry production costs would arise from the removal of these antibiotics. And this would also result in an increased cost to consumers of about $2.20 per capita per year. And this is the reason why many of these companies, these poultry production companies, do not remove these growth promoting antibiotics, as it would not only hurt them, but it would hurt the consumers and less people would buy their products. So for market demand, these are some of the statistics that I found. So broiler chick production changed dramatically from 1955 to 1995. The average market weight of broilers has increased nearly 50% because of these growth-promoting antibiotics. And the time needed for broilers to actually reach the market weight and the amount of feed required to produce 1 pound of broiler meat have declined approximately 35%. And it is asserted by industry researchers that these growth-promoting antibiotics are an essential component in maintaining these increases in productivity, which have contributed to the decreased cost of chicken products for consumers. These are some political statistics that I found on this topic. The USDA, which is the United States Drug Administration, prohibited a microbiologist from talking about the significant levels of antibiotic-resistant bacteria that was detected in the air near hog confinement operations in the Midwest. And in 2009, pharmaceutical companies spent around $135 million and agribusiness companies spent around $70 million in order to fight against limits on antibiotic use in animal feed. And this just goes to show how the government is so unwilling to take these antibiotic hormones and growth hormones out of these animal products in order to benefit how much money they are getting, how much money it costs to make these things, and how many people don't have to spend much. So this is something very big in politics. Moving on to ethical considerations before the summary and conclusion of my presentation. Thinking about ethical considerations at this point, what is being done individually is people are able to educate themselves about the use of growth hormones and antibiotics in food production by learning about food labels and making informed choices about what companies use ethical and sustainable practices so that they are able to buy from those companies only. And this can also shift market trends and encourage companies to change their practices for the better. This slide discusses what government and local organizations have been doing to try and help this issue. First off, avoparcin, which is a glycopeptide antibiotic effective against gram-positive bacteria, has been used in animal feed and has been banned by the European Union, and it has been used in animal feed in order to promote growth in chickens, pigs, and cattle. This has reduced antibiotic resistance in both animals and humans, as when humans eat these animals, they can also produce antibiotic resistance because of the spread of bacteria. The use of antibiotics for growth promotion purposes was banned by the European Union in 2006. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, also known as the FDA, has issued final plans to try and phase out the use of medically important antibiotics for livestock purposes. Also, the USDA's Agricultural Resource Management Survey was used by Economic Research Service to estimate the effects of phasing out antibiotic use in livestock production. It was found that it would result in the increase in price of livestock products and a decrease in production. So this is typically the reason why these livestock products have still been used with antibiotics and growth hormones. The development of the WHO Action Plan and the FAO Global Action Plan has helped to push the prevention of the transmission of antibiotic resistance between species. Lastly, food producers are expected to ensure transparency about their use of growth hormones and antibiotics within their food production. And this will definitely help to calm people's nerves about what types of things are in these livestock products. To conclude my presentation, these are the main points that I found most important when looking over my slides. So, increased use of antibiotics have raised concern about the safety of livestock products. And also, there has been increased concern about the antimicrobial resistance that could be prevalent after consuming these products. The antimicrobial resistance can lead to the ineffectiveness of antibiotic therapy for the treatment of human diseases. So this is something that many of these livestock companies really need to look out for, as they could start to produce really bad diseases within humans, as well as not being able to treat these diseases. Others believe that antibiotic use in food-producing animals is not a concern for human health, and they argue that low doses of antibiotics actually reduce these animal death rates by preventing and stopping the bacterial growth that make animals sick in the first place. And although hormones are naturally occurring, they do have biological effects on both humans and animals. And when we consume animal products containing synthetic hormones, it is argued that we also consume naturally occurring hormones that have biological effects on us. And hormones are only approved after confirmation that the food from the treated animals is safe enough for humans to consume, and that the animal's environment are not harmed. In order to address the issue of antibiotic and growth hormone use in livestock products consumed by humans, measures have and are continuing to be taken. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope that you learned something about this topic. These are my references, part 1, and these are my other references.